So good morning and welcome everyone. Thank you to all those who attended last week's workshop on interviewing and one-on-ones. And so this week's topic will be on building new skill sets to set yourself apart. So my name's David Kirkwood. I have 15 years in oil and gas, 10 years in leadership. And why am I doing this? I've lived through 3 oil and gas downturns and I want to get back.
And I'm JenGaudet. I am a success strategist and coach. And part of the reason that David and I have partnered on this is because, like he said, he's lived through 3 of these cycles, and this is my business. I really enjoy up-leveling and helping individuals to become the CEO of their businesses in their lives. So today we're presenting building new skill sets, how to set yourself apart. This has been a topic that has had quite a lot of questions around it. When we submitted the request for feedback on what it was that you wanted to hear about. Part of it was, how do I acquire new skill sets? What does that look like? Do I need to start from scratch? How do I actually transition to a new industry, or maybe transition out and become an entrepreneur for myself? Or how do I position myself to not lose my job the next down cycle? So we decided that this would be the best next step. We have already presented on building relational capital, everything you need to know about networking, both internally and externally. And then last week, we presented on
one-on-ones and interviewing, and some of the skill sets we talked about there, active listening, doing your homework before you get to the interview, knowing the values, not only of yourself, but of the company with whom you'd like to work for. And then also, it's how helpful networking and one-on-ones is in building relational capital. So all the different topics are really interrelated. You'll find that the content, even in this one, we'll see kind of those similar themes as we're building upon this over 6 weeks.
If you missed the last couple of workshops and would like information, feel free to email David or myself. Screenshot this if you like. Both of our email addresses are on the screen. We would be happy to send you the replays to those workshops.
And reach out to us as well if you have been impacted by the oil and gas downturn. Again, we think this is kind of a long haul situation. So if you just want to spend 20 minutes just to bounce some ideas off of one of us, we'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely. So a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. As people join in, we will be asking that everyone stay on mute. There is a group chat function. If you do want to ask a question or interact with us, please, we ask that you set that to everyone or to all panelists and participants, depending on your device, what that reads. Make sure that is set that way so that everyone has the benefit of your question as well as whatever answer that we provide. We have fielded some questions in advance of this, and we have incorporated it into the conversation that we'll be presenting today. So if you have additional questions, it would be very beneficial for everyone else if you would do that and put that in the chat. If you are catching the replay, feel free to any of your questions send to David at JenGaudetCoaching.com. That is on the screen right now as well, and we'd be happy to reply with any answers.
So let's go ahead and get started. So why build a new skill set? Why focus on this at all? So I'll share a story. I actually had a client who on that client's job site asked for new responsibilities on that current job, took that experience that was gained doing those new skill sets, and then landed a job that doubled his income. So by focusing on building new skill sets, you really can advance your career. In the works cited, there's a Harvard Business Review article that talks about a gentleman who started off in the banking industry, and by being persistent and consistent with the building of skill sets, was able to get into C-suite. So another reason is value to current employer. I'll give you an example here. I had a sales team member who was very hesitant about cold outreach while we're trying to develop business in this current environment. Well, sharing a success story, this person cold called a vice president of a company and identified 2 multi-million opportunities that could potentially keep a lot of people busy as we move forward. And so celebrating those successes are important as well. And then third, set yourself apart. What is the unique skill set combination that you can bring to set yourself apart? Recently, I had a team member went through an interview, and that person's combined military operational experience along with the newly acquired skill set of 3D modeling is now a forefront runner in a totally different industry than oil and gas. So these things can happen by focusing on building new skill sets. You really can achieve the results that you'd like to achieve. And sort of as an honorable mention, doing some research on LinkedIn, what are the top 2 skill sets that are in demand? The number 1 soft skill is creativity. So as engineers, critical thinking, your design work, what are some of the ideas that you have that maybe you haven't been able to apply before? How can you apply those ideas maybe into another industry? And then number 2, the number 1 hard skill set was cloud computing. Obviously, with things moving towards a digital age, and especially now with people still working from home with COVID ongoing, digitization is becoming more and more real, more normalized, even through industries like oil and gas. So let's now talk about due diligence. The first question to ask is the goal attainable? So for example, do you have the hand-eye coordination to perform surgery? So you need to be honest with yourself of what is the goal, where am I really trying to head, and do I have the ability to get there? Identify the peripheral industries. Coming from oil and gas, if you're working at an engineering firm, for example, who are the vendors that you know that may service oil and gas plus other industries? Maybe there's opportunities there. What about peripheral industries themselves? If you're in oil and gas, could you look at wastewater? How is the wastewater industry doing? So do some research on what are the industries that have the demand and see how you can correlate your existing skill sets in combination with key identified new skill sets to put you in the right position to get your next W-2, or perhaps to transition to become an entrepreneur and a business owner. And third, understand the gap. So what is the gap? The gap is where you are today versus where you're wanting to go. And so if currently you're an engineer in oil and gas trying to become a surgeon, there might be a really wide gap. As opposed to identifying a peripheral industry, maybe that gap is a lot smaller than you think. You just haven't considered it before.
So remember in the previous slide when it was talking about creativity being the number 1 skill to add to your toolbox right now? This is where being creative and creative problem solving comes into play. Thinking outside of the box a little bit about what your core competencies are and how they can apply to something in a related field or even in a completely different industry. For example, if you're a project manager and you have a whole lot of skill with procurement, looking at budgeting, managing people, managing timelines, managing resources, and truly effectively pulling together the best skills in a comprehensive team, that skill set can apply to leadership in other industries. So how can you brush up on another industry that might be completely unrelated and utilize those skill sets for something that might be a passion project of yours? So creative problem solving is incredibly critical right now when you're doing your due diligence and considering what skill sets do I need to brush up on, what do I need to enhance so that I could take my expertise and transition it in the best way. This brings us to comfort zone. The reality is, if you are a subject matter expert, were you born that way? No. All of us have a cumulative life experience, work experience, career experience that has developed us into where we are experts, where our expertise lies. And oftentimes, if we've been in an industry for 20 years, we're not really having to work very hard to come by our expertise because we've just experienced it so much. We've become the go-to for a specific skill set or technical capability. The reality is that when we dive into a new skill set, it's gonna be uncomfortable. Maybe you don't remember when you first graduated with your degree and moved into your area, or when you first got your certification and moved into your trade, that you had a lot of learning to do and things you were not comfortable with. And maybe inside your head, you felt like you were an imposter. That will happen with each new skill set. However, as with gaining your subject matter expertise, practice got you there and it became comfortable. It's just a part of who you are. That exact same thing will happen as you acquire new skill sets. So the question is, are you willing to work through that discomfort? Because once you've done something 10 times, that level of discomfort sort of goes away a little bit and it gets incredibly easier and just becomes a part of your habit structure, a part of your routine, and a part of who you are as you continue to work on developing the skill set.
And so for many of us in oil and gas, there's a kind of a buzz phrase, if you will, called level of effort. So that's the activities that we are used to seeing that drive some deliverable. And so how does that apply to what we're talking about here? If you're learning a new skill set, do the first few for free. If you're going the route of entrepreneur, as an example, when I first started coaching just about a year ago, I had several free sessions that I did for one-on-one coaching, and I used that to build my experience. And now, just about a year later, I have several paying coaching clients. And by the way, that's in my spare time. That's in my side hustle, as it were. So you can, if you apply all of the different techniques of which we're speaking, you use those in combination, being effective with your time management to be able to use the skills that you're using in your current job plus some others. In the example I gave before, my client took on extra responsibility that was outside both the comfort zone as well as the knowledge base. But then by applying it and getting that experience, that person was able to put this on the resume and get the double pay job. Effective results.
And let's finally wrap up with SWOT analysis. When we're doing our due diligence in our skill set acquisition, we've got to assess our internal, what are our strengths and our weaknesses, and the external factors like opportunities and threats to whatever skill set we're acquiring, whatever job we're looking for, whatever industry we're looking into. So this is incredibly key. Many of us have blinders on when it comes to our weaknesses or our strengths. Maybe you're the person who everybody talks about how proficient you are in something such as leadership. Oh, or you're inspirational, or you're able to inspire and motivate other people to do things, but you don't feel that way inwardly. That actually is a strength because you are able to get other people to perform at a greater level. Conversely, you may think that you are an expert communicator. You might be a project manager, and when you dictate, stuff gets done. But it's a one-way, one-sided communication. It's always you telling other people what to do. That is not an effective communicator by the definition of communication. Communication is about listening to understand. And if you would like more information on that, we dove into active listening and communication extensively in one of our prior workshops. We'll be happy to send that to you. So do a real hard, no BS, no judgment. Nobody's looking at this. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And then look at where the opportunities lie. Just like we were talking about, what skill sets do you have that can apply to another industry with a little bit of tweaking? Those are opportunities versus threats, which are your competition. If you have been let go, along with hundreds of thousands of other people in the oil and gas industry, you have a lot of competition looking for another job. That's a threat. What is your competition better at than you? So that might be a weakness that you have, and the threat is your competition is strong in that area, and that might be a key place that you can develop a new skill set, acquire and practice it so that you mitigate that weakness and use it to mitigate that threat so that you are able to take advantage of the next opportunity. For more on SWOT analysis, get with David or myself. We would be more than happy to go through this. I often encourage my clients to go through this either with their coach, with an accountability partner who is not afraid to call BS when you say you're good at something that you're not. And this is not your partner. I think we've talked about this in every single workshop. Your accountability partner is not your spouse. It's not somebody who's your brother, your sister, your close friend, because they might have the same blind spots as you because they're emotionally attached. So find someone who can be objective and really call you out on your BS when you're looking at your strengths and weaknesses.
And to add to that, Jen and I had attended a workshop a few weeks ago, and if you've never heard of George Ross, who has coached 2 United States presidents, made that very same point. A coach is not family. It really, for that relationship to be strong, it needs to be removed from biases, and your family's going to be biased because they love you. The coaches love you too, but it's a different kind of love.
I think that's tough love.
That's it. Okay, so let's talk about learning styles and community. So if you're getting into setting new habits and how can I learn these new skill sets, take a step back and ask yourself, which am I of these? There's different learning styles that are out there, and probably you have some combination of these. Have you ever caught yourself saying, I hear what you're saying, or I feel that? So from neuro-linguistic programming, we learned that the words that you speak can be an identifier to your preferred learning mechanisms. And so understanding that can help you to be more effective in your learnings. And so as far as community, Jen, tell us a little bit about support and accountability and why that is key.
Right, so this is exceptionally important. Whenever you're stepping into a new industry, a new skill set, you're trying to have something become just a part of who you are and to really ingrain that into your skill set, your attributes, your habits, your routines. The importance of support and accountability is 100% key. Even the highest performers in any area will take, everyone knows who Tom Brady is. Most people do anyway. He's the quarterback he was the quarterback of New England Patriots for many years. Now he's moved to another team. Whether or not you like football is irrelevant for this analogy. Tom Brady has multiple coaches. He is spoken about as one of the best quarterbacks of our time. And so he has an innate talent and skill set. However, he has had quarterback coaches. He has had head coaches for strategy. He has had nutritional coaches to dial in his human performance. He has dealt with mentors to help him to manage his money, to be able to do other things and to really prioritize his life, because as a high performer, you have to set effective boundaries and you have to do the things that are going to acquire the skills in the best way. So it's repetition. What are the repetitions? What are the skill breakdowns? How do you get to that level? So having a solid mentor, a solid coach to provide you that breakdown of the skill set, as well as that safe space for support and holding your feet to the fire. When it gets hard, having that pin underneath your bottom to keep you moving forward is exceptionally key to actually gaining the new habits, skill sets, and have that become a part of who you are. So this is why mentors and coaches are so important, but it's equally as important that your community is supportive. I will share with you that many times as we grow and elevate to a next level, and you may have experienced this but not had a definition behind it, there are people who will say, oh, that's great for you, but, and they kind of pull you back, and maybe you notice some self-sabotage. Your community, the people who you surround yourself by, the people who get a seat at your table must be supportive. They must be people who are helping you towards this goal or supporting you towards this goal without that backhanded compliment or that need to hold you back. So when we say tucking in chairs, what that means is maybe your family and your friends love you and support you in certain areas, and you want to make a transition out of oil and gas. Well, they might come with, why would you want to do that? You have 20 years experience in oil and gas. Why in the world would you shift to another career where you might have to take a pay cut? And they come with all the little yeah buts Yeah, but you might have to take a pay cut. Yeah, but you can't compete with people with 20 years in the wastewater industry. All of those yeah buts do you no good when you're acquiring new skills. So what you're going to do is those people you're just going to tuck in their chairs. Just like if you've ever been to a wedding or a graduation, when people want to save their seats, they tuck in their chairs, they sort of put it forward over the table so everyone knows that's reserved, but they're not sitting in it. That's what happens for those people. At this point in time, when you're acquiring skills, the only people who get to sit at your table are people who are growing, who are learning, who are supporting you in your growth, peers who are working on the same skill set, your coaches, your mentors, and the people who are truly supporting you. While your family and friends might be supportive, they may be in a table that's way in the back of the room right now when it comes to skill acquisition, because if they're detracting from you, or you're finding yourself self-sabotaging because there are voices in your head, well, you can't do this, an old dog can't learn new tricks, or whatever the stories are being told. Those people do not. You tuck their chairs in and you have them sit at another table where you can maybe socialize, but not talk about your new skill acquisition.
So this is such a huge thing, and this was specifically asked about in our correspondence that we got through email this week, was community. Think about the example Jen just gave, and again, whether or not you watch professional football is irrelevant. In a system where you have 32 teams all in competition with each other, and they all have the same roles, which is analogous to what's happening in the oil and gas, right? All these same people have the same roles, and they're trying to get to where the jobs are. How can you set yourself apart? One way to do it is to self-train, or you can set yourself apart further by getting help from someone else. Be that a community, or be that one-on-one coaching, or be that a friend who can help to mentor you in that new skill set, or be that giving away some things for free so that you can put that experience on your resume. That is how you set yourself apart. And so a little bit about the mechanisms of those meetings. Again, this ties to other subjects maybe we haven't covered in detail yet, but we will, is the setup. How do you manage an effective meeting? Do you set a clear agenda? Do you set ground rules for the meeting and expectations? Do you have a code word that you could use as a respectful interrupt? From memory, I want to say that there was a Harvard Business Review article that used the word jellyfish. Whenever that word came up, that meant everyone had to stop and be silent so that the meeting could stay on task. If you get verbose in a philosophical discussion, all of a sudden, all your time is going to be eaten up, and you won't achieve the results that you'd like. So have an agenda. Remain on point. Make sure that you agree with all of the people who will attend the meeting that they agree to table any side topics. And to help yourself be even more effective, assign a time manager who can give regular check-ins to make sure that you are on point for the meeting to make it the most of your time. So stepping forward with all this information, what comes next? So I want to talk about SMART goals. And this is a lot of what we do and we learn as we're becoming coaches. And so what does SMART stand for? It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So what is all that about? So let's say in my other role, an engineer comes to me and they're newly graduated and asks me, what are your career goals? Well, I want to get stronger technically. That's a great goal. But what do you do with that statement? A better statement would be something like, I will read 3 chapters in the National Electric Code over the next 3 weeks to better understand grounding. You see the difference between those two statements? There's something specific in there, the National Electric Code. It's measurable, meaning I can count it. I can measure it. I'll read 3 chapters. So now you can track progress. Well, I got 1 chapter done the last week. I was so busy. Let me see if I can find a way to get 2 done this week. And you can start celebrating your small wins as you have this incremental steps of improvement. Is it achievable? So sure, I can count it, But if I set a goal of, I'm going to read 45 million books tonight, I'll struggle. Is it relevant? Do I want to be reading books about yoga? Probably not if I'm going to be trying to get some new technical skills. So it has to be a relevant goal. And then time bound. If you don't set a date, it won't be as effective as if you say, this is the deadline. That deadline lets you think back on how you need to approach the thing in the limited time. And think about it. For us in oil and gas EPC firms, how do we set our schedules? We think about the construction date, and then we back it up to figure out when does engineering happen to be able to support that construction date. It is the same mechanism as you're doing this for yourself. So another way to get better at something is to teach others. Set up your own webinar. Set up your own accountability group with your own presentations and teach it. Cannot reiterate enough, find a mentor or a coach. You probably know someone in your network who is really good at this new skill set that you would like to learn. If you don't have that person in your network, go back to one of our previous presentations about relationship capital and how you can get better there. Networking with people. Who is the best person to help you learn that skill set? Have a conversation with them. Is that stepping outside of your comfort zone for you? Does that make you nervous? If typically the thing that makes you nervous when you go through with it, it provides a great benefit. And it's important when you do reach out, regardless of what happens with the result of that phone call or that reach out, celebrate the fact that you did it. We want to normalize the new activity. It is so important. And so that is a segue into attitude identification. If you feel like you're always right, or if you feel like you've already arrived, I'm here to tell you, you are behind the 8 ball. You need to be coachable. You need to be flexible. Not only are companies looking for this, you must look for it in yourselves. Think about it. What would be the reason that a company would want you to be flexible? It's most likely the case that they want you to be able to adapt to that company's culture. And if you go into an interview, say, with the attitude that your culture is the best thing and you have no interest in changing, you're basically communicating to the interviewer, you have no interest in joining their company. So the use of language. And so how do you do that? How do you change your attitude? This is a controllable thing that we can do with the shifting of mindset. So we've not gone into that in detail yet, but we will as we go forward. So some takeaways. As we talk about in each of the workshops, if you're just passively learning this material and not taking action with it, it's going to be very difficult for you to retain it and utilize it as you go forward. So for due diligence, your action would be perform a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and be brutally honest. It's okay to be brutally honest with yourself. That's the only way you know what you actually need to do. So what's the important thing there? Be authentic with yourself. Sometimes we put on masks for other people and situationally dependent. But this one thing I need you to do, be authentic with yourself so you know the right actions to take. Learning styles and community. Identify your own learning style. Maybe you don't need to do a whole lot of homework with that. You may have hobbies that you do that lend you to know what yours is. For example, one of my hobbies is music production. So I spend a lot of time listening. It's one of my favorite hobbies. Make it an accountable thing. Find the one skill, not 50 skills, the one skill and start it today. Then find a mentor or coach. Per George Ross, who's coached 2 United States presidents, a coach is not family. They have biases. Reach out to someone who is a neutral party to you, who can be objective as an observer to how you are showing up in the world for you to change for the better. Start a group learning, start your own community, network and social media, teach, and then finally stepping forward, use the SMART goal, something specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, and a goal that you will commit to achieving in the next 3 weeks.
So support and accountability. Now that you've got your action step, feel free to pop it in the chat if you want. Send us an email, pair up with someone who will call you out on your BS and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm committing to doing for the next 3 weeks. Please check in with me. Let me check in with you daily. I'm going to let you know my progress towards that action step. And if you don't hear from me, please call me out. That's an accountability partner. You could also use your coach for accountability or your tribe, your community for accountability. But say what your goal is, write it down, say it out loud to your accountability partner, to your community, to your tribe. Other things that are amazing with regards to accountability partners, when we have someone else that we state a goal to, when I tell David, I'm going to read a book a week all year, then he can ask me, which book did you read this week? And if I haven't done it, guess what? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to read right now. Because I'm not just accountable to myself. He knows. So someone else knows and can ask you about it. It up-levels our commitment to working towards our goals, especially if this new skill set you're trying to acquire is challenging and uncomfortable. I cannot understate how important having that support and accountability is.
So I want to ask a question. Maybe the audience is thinking, well, you guys are both coaches. Are you guys coaching yourselves? How many coaches do you have, Jen?
I currently have 5 coaches.
And so what roles do those coaches have for you?
So that's a great question. David and I have a couple of different businesses that we work in. I have a coaching practice. I have a coach who specifically works on me towards building that business. Someone who specifically addresses the speaking arm because I'm an international speaker. I have a coach who works on mindset and helps me get over my own stuff. Technically, it's a life coach who's working on my mindset with me, but it applies to all areas of business, relationship, personal development and growth. We have an overarching business coach who is not only our coach, but also mentors. And we have a real estate coach because we have a real estate business. We're investing in real estate. So for every skill set I need to improve upon, I have a coach. I'm already an international speaker. I already close clients from the stage all over the world. Why do I have a coach if I already have that? Because I know that even when I can achieve this, a coach is going to take me to the next level. And I will share with you that as a coach, I cannot underestimate enough the value of having someone above and objective to say, hey, listen, I know you're rocking here, but you're missing this opportunity, and how can we grow? Because truthfully, if we're not growing, learning, and evolving, if we think that we are the subject matter expert and we can no longer learn from anyone else, we're already behind the 8 ball, as David said before. Someone else is learning and growing and going to be the next big thing. Coaches can help us with the objective view and say, hey, listen, that was working last year, but right now that's just not okay. So how can I grow? How can I improve upon what already is there? Because the reality is, if I was already to the next level, if I was already Tony Robbins, you guys would have already seen me on a Tony Robbins level stage without opening for somebody like a Tony Robbins.
And so for myself, I am in a W-2, but I do have a coach that I invested heavily in. And I'm doing that in kind of my extra time because I've seen the value. I've seen how it's helped Jen to grow. And, to be someone who does the activity, you need to kind of buy into the product, right? And so cannot stress enough about what the benefits can be. You've seen some of it here. If you're curious about it, reach out to us. Have a 20-minute conversation. Be happy to look at you as an individual. It's very difficult for us to do in these webinars. We really cannot get into your specific situation as easily as we could if it was just a one-on-one over the phone.
Right. So what's coming up? We have some upcoming workshops. The next 3 that we're doing are going to be each week at the same time, same station. If you want to join us, we will be recording them and sending the replays as well. Up next is building confidence, silencing the inner critic to powerfully move forward. You do not want to miss this. If you want to work on your presentation skills, if you want to work on your interview skills, if you want to work on going into a room and learning how to network, confidence is key, because if you recall our prior sessions, presence is everything, and you never get another chance to make a first impression. If you think back to the last time you walked into a room of people, who did you notice? You notice the people who were the most confident. Why? Because it's the way they carry themselves. It sort of emanates from them. And so improving and building confidence is key, especially if you're looking for your next W-2, your next opportunity, if you want to learn how to ask. We're going to do effective communication, body language, getting to the point, and asking for what you need. So many times we think we need to know everything, but the secret is the more you know, the more you learn that you don't know. That's why I have so many coaches, because I recognize that as I grow, I need other people to help me to continue to grow. And so asking for what you need is very important. And a lot of times we think in our industry that if we ask, if we say, ooh, I'm not 100% sure if this is the right course of action, that it somehow makes us look weak. However, asking for support, asking for what you need help with is actually a sign of strength. And it commands respect from everyone when you're not just trying to BS them that you know what you're talking about, because safety is everything in oil and gas particularly, but in also many other industries. So ask for what you need, ask for the support and the help that you need, ask for the job that you want, learn how to ask. Leadership, the power of others, letting go of control, and self-mastery. We'd like to invite you, if you have been following along with us, several of you have been to all of our workshops and or watched our links and intend to continue doing the same. If this is something that you really are interested in diving deeper, we do offer oil and gas professionals group coaching. This is really geared towards laser coaching you along with a small group of other people. It includes enhanced accountability, a community that's already built there for you. It goes over so many of the topics that we've already discussed, but crucial soft skills such as business development, the ability to sell, confidence, communication, leadership, and so much more. If you'd like more information, please email us at david@jengaudetcoaching.com or comment in the chat that we're here and we are ready to help you through your next stage.
So thanks again for everybody who's attended. This time we put the questions and comments we received from the emails into the content itself. So at this time, we'd like to see if anyone has any questions.
And while we do that, the secret to change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. This is my favorite quote. It is the first page in my international best-selling book. It is by Socrates and has withstood the test of time. If we're focusing on the things we cannot do, if we're focusing on what has always worked for us, we are living in a new age. We are living in a new time, and we are experiencing challenges that have never been seen before. Not only is this an oil and gas downturn, this is also one of the worst pandemics that we as a population have seen in 100 years. It's one of the worst economic turmoil situations that we've encountered in many, many years. Some say since the Great Depression. We are having worldwide issues coming to light. We're in the middle of transitioning to renewable energies. That's been a long road, but this has really opened a lot of people's eyes to some of the other things that need to change. Many people in your industry and in other industries are looking at how can I automate more? How can I be more efficient and more effective? How can I be more environmentally conscious? Because when everybody went to stay at home, those things came to the forefront. People started to notice the impact on pollution in their areas. Heck, people in Los Angeles could see the skyline for the first time in many years. And they're like, wow, this is beautiful. How do we keep it? So learning to adapt, learning to be flexible is very, very key skill set and attribute. And if it's something that is very difficult for you, then focusing everything on what you want to build and moving forward rather than what worked in the past is 100% the way to do it. Okay, so that's really everything that we had to cover for this morning.
Thank you so much for everyone's time in joining us here today. Again, reach out to us, David at JenGaudetCoaching.com. Schedule a 20-minute call. It can just be to just touch base. I'm happy to do that. Happy to hear about your individual situation and see how I can help. Who can I network you to? Who do we know that can help you? We'd love to be able to help you guys out.
And finally, your feedback is really important to us. It literally is what is prompting our content for our upcoming workshops. So keep it coming. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all of you, and we are here for you. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.